Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gloria and thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today I wanted to go through kind of how I got my Hoya to bloom. So a few tips and tricks. I'm by no means an expert because I've only had one Hoya bloom on me, but I've tried really hard and I think some of these techniques have really helped me, so hopefully they will help you as well. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And yeah, let's just jump right into today's video. Okay, so I'll show you guys kind of my one and only plant that is in bloom right now. I know a lot of you have seen this already, but it is my Hoya Matilde. So this little baby is actually in full bloom. Just look at this. All the flowers have opened and it looks beautiful and amazing. So I have a second one over here that's actually trying to open. I mean, not trying, but it's on the verge. Good Lord. A flower has fallen. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. Did I do that? Did I do that to you? I don't know. But yeah, I was just trying to show you guys this other peduncle that has some flowers that are about to open. I find that at this stage, it takes quite some time. It'll literally take ages for the peduncle to mature and then for the buds to start to open, and then it finally does open. So I would say this flower has been open for about a week and a half now, and in that week and a half only one has fallen. So I guess that's a timeline for you. Flowers don't last forever, so don't be too attached to it like how I am. So this is my plant. As you can see, it's a fairly big plant. So I would say my first tip is that don't constantly cut your Hoyas. So when you're constantly cutting it, you're stressing out the plant. It is less likely to bloom for you if it's very small. Definitely not impossible, because I know a lot of people who do have small cuttings actually have their cuttings bloom for them before even growing leaves, which is actually really odd. So obviously there's an exception to every rule, but in this case I would say most Hoyas like to be kind of more established and mature before they bloom. So if you just have like a 1 or 2 leaf cutting, don't count on it blooming for you. If it does, then great, but most likely it won't. So yeah, bigger plant. I used to cut this Matilde so often, like literally every month I would give it a little bit of a haircut because it was just growing too wild. And yeah, now that it looks like this, I kind of stopped cutting it because I was just giving it a chance to recover and not stressed out and just bloom for me. And this summer it actually did. So I've had it for a year and I probably stopped cutting it around winter time. So maybe in like February I stopped cutting it. A few months later it did finally bloom for me. As you can see, some of these peduncles are so old. So this is how the peduncle looks like this little piece, and that is an old peduncle. So each time it tries to bloom, it kind of gets longer and longer and it just grows at the end of it. So don't cut off old peduncles because it could re-bloom on that peduncle, and that's why I just have a lot of old peduncles here, meaning this plant has bloomed before when it wasn't in my care, so when it was still at the nursery. And yeah, certain plants are more likely to bloom than others. So I would say definitely in the Carnosa family, they're such prolific bloomers. They grow really quickly in terms of leaves and they bloom very quickly in terms of flowers. So it's a good plant overall. The Matilde is a cross between a Carnosa and a Serpens. So it has the Carnosa parentage in it, and that's why it blooms so easily. So definitely a good beginner friendly Hoya plant for you to hopefully bloom one day. So yeah, this is the Hoya Matilde. And another thing I would say, oh, I just found another peduncle. I'm too much. So do you see this peduncle right here? So this one is actually about to bloom as well. So it first comes off looking like this, and then it turns to this stage, and then it turns to this stage. So 3 different stages of blooms for you. Oh my god, I'm so proud of you. Another thing is temperature. So I find that Hoyas are more likely to bloom if they're kind of more on the warmer side. So when you start to see peduncles forming, actually develops, so it doesn't blast, you want to put it in a warm place. So don't put it where there's like a really cold AC draft. Don't put it near a window where it's like constantly open and close, or in the winter if it's near a window where it's just not well insulated and you get a lot of cold drafts. That's not good. So keep it in a warmer place and it will for sure bloom for you one day, which is what I did. I find that right beside my bed there's no AC vent or anything like that, so it stays pretty much the same consistent warm temperature that it normally does, and yeah, that really helps with it. Also, keeping it more root bound. So when it's more root bound, it tends to flower more as well. I didn't really test out this theory because my plant is probably not that root bound because it's in a pretty large 5-inch pot of soil, and it has a bunch of moss in there as well because I couldn't take it all off from the roots when I initially bought it from the nursery. I haven't tested out that theory, so I don't really know if it works. Another thing is to kind of underwater it a little bit. So I find that when it goes more thirsty, and obviously not on the extreme end where like you just never water your plant, but if you just kind of make it a little bit more thirsty and let it go a bit more dry during the time that peduncles have formed, it's really encouraging for the blooms to actually come out. So I think that's a pretty good way, because I honestly constantly underwater my Mathilde, and I usually go by feeling the leaves. If I feel it and it feels like a little bit soft, or more so very soft, then that's when I water it. But I don't let it go so wrinkly that it starts like the leaves start falling off, because you don't want that. New leaves definitely need more water for it to grow and not fall off, but blooms like to be on the underwater side. So yeah, that's how I keep my peduncles from not blasting. So those are some of the tips. I do want to talk about how I have other plants that have peduncles but they don't really progress, and one major reason is due to pests. So when a Hoya is undergoing a infestation, like a mealybug infestation, like my Pachylata, those peduncles honestly just won't grow. So I have a bunch of peduncles on here that really haven't done much. So there's one peduncle there, and then there's another one over here, right where my finger is. So 2 peduncles, and they've literally been there for, I would say, like over 6 months, and it's because there's constantly mealybugs on this plant that I'm honestly always treating, but it's probably stressing out the plant too much for it to actually bloom, and that's a pretty valid reason. So good to inspect your plants, make sure that there are no pests, and that could be a reason as to why your plant is held back and it's not blooming for you. So yeah, definitely check for pests. I try to do it very regularly, but sometimes I'm not as on top of it. And for this one with mealybugs, I usually just treat it with rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle. I'll either spray a Q-tip and I'll like swap it off or I'll just spray it directly on there. But when you do, the mealybugs die and it stays on the plant, which is kind of ugly, but if you use a cotton swab, you can just wipe it off. So yeah, those are pretty much all the tips that I have in terms of how I get my Hoyas to bloom. So not all of these I've tested myself, but some are kind of tips and tricks that my friends have told me. But yeah, I've tried a few of these and they have worked for me, and my Mathilde has bloomed, and I have literally 3 active peduncles, which I'm like, am I an expert now? I think I am. I'm just kidding. So yeah, hope you guys found today's video helpful. Comment down below if you guys have any Hoyas that are in bloom right now. I would love to know. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.